guys, it's Kaitlyn, your geeky girlfriend. Today, we're back in the kitchen. We're going to do another episode of Kaitlyn's Shortcut Kitchen. And tonight's recipe is a super easy recipe for the burr months. I've made this a few times and have loved how it's turned out every time. So, we're going to change it up just a little bit today. But first, so like I said, it's the burr months, which means it's soup season. So tonight we're going to make a white bean soup. This is a super easy recipe that I stumbled across on Pinterest. You probably already have all of the ingredients at your disposal, other than maybe the beans. You can use whatever type of white beans you want. You can use the Canelli beans, the Great Northern beans. You could probably even use garbanzo beans if you want. First, we're starting off with some oil at the bottom of our soup pot. Now, admittedly, you're supposed to have minced garlic, which you can also put in your soup pot. However, I used the rest of my garlic last week, so we don't have that. So we're going to heat up our oil. And I also have already pureed 1 can of beans. So I literally took this can, put it in the food processor, pureed it. Now, we're going to pour the pureed beans into the pot with our oil. And then we're going to add these 2 cans of beans. We're going to add the rest of my ingredients out. We're also going to add 2 cups of broth. The recipe calls for chicken. I'm going to use chicken bone broth because if you've been following for a few weeks, we do have very low grade gestational diabetes that we're still controlling with diet only. And I did have a couple of sweet treats today because it was Lucas's work baby shower. And I was graciously invited to be able to go. So that was fun. Whoopsie. And there were some cookies there. And I also had a little cookie left over from my baby shower over the weekend. So we've had some sweet treats today. So I'm doing bone broth just to add a little bit extra protein. Speaking of protein, we are going to actually add some extra things to this as well. So this recipe that I'm using came from the blog Budget Bites. That's BYTES. And like I said, I have made this recipe probably 3 or so times, and it hits the spot every single time. Obviously, the beans themselves have some protein in them, but beans do have a lot of carbs. So as a way to kind of combat that, we're going to use chicken bone broth. Now, we are, so I have my oil in there. We're going to add these 2 cans of beans. Let's hope that my can opener is plugged in. Okay. Something tells me that it might not be. Nope. Oh, hold please. Jeopardy. Cue Jeopardy theme. Might have to speed this up in the editing of this video. Because I'm not over there to hit pause. There we go. Okay, so we're going to open up our beans. And for those of you who want to come at me about the electric can opener, listen, for me, it is the only thing that I have ever known. I've never had a manual one. I personally like the electric ones. I think it works a little bit better. Gonna plop that can in. And if you are curious, this is totally random, but my sweater did come from Pink Lily. It is not a maternity sweater, but I just, they have a lot of just oversized, very generous fitting clothing. Okay, and with the 2 cans of beans that we're adding on top of the pureed one, so I showed you guys already the one that we pureed. You don't have to drain that can. They do recommend draining the other 2 cans that you're going to add in, partially because you're adding broth as well. So now we've got 3 cans of beans total. 1 has been pureed, 2 have not. We did use 2 different kinds of beans, which, like I said, is totally a personal preference. Now, back to what I was saying about the sweater. It's from Pink Lily. I'm wearing actually my true size medium, believe it or not. It's just a very oversized fit. You could wear it with leggings. Back to the pregnancy. We are officially 35 weeks and 3 days, 2 days, 35 weeks, 2 days. And other than, like I said, still trying to monitor and keep track on that gestational diabetes, things are still going really, really smoothly and really, really well. I have a lot of videos that I've been planning on recording for you guys, so stay tuned for those. Okay, now, we've got our beans in the pot. We've got our oil in the pot. Now we're going to add some other seasonings, dry ingredients, and talking back about protein. I'm using bone broth because I wanted a little bit more protein. Bone broth is something that they talk about a lot in the Real Food for Pregnancy book, if you have read that. And we are just eyeballing that broth. I did not measure that at all. But it is 32 ounces, so, about half, a little shy of half, and you'll get your 2 cups. Now, also speaking of protein, this soup you can serve completely as we're doing it, with just the beans, the broth, the seasonings, whatever. But I decided to add a little bit extra protein, so I did get a container of this diced prosciutto, and then we're also going to add a bag of bacon bits. So we're going to have a little bit of that ham flavor, a little bit of the bacon flavor. So we're going to have lots of pork, but that's okay. We're going to dump these in there too. And then I, like I said, don't have any minced garlic, which that's okay. This is Shortcut Kitchen, so we're all about replacing ingredients. So I'm going to, that prosciutto has a nice, salty smell to it. So I have had prosciutto very limited. We'll see how it tastes. I usually do put bacon in this soup. I'm just going to do a half a bag of these bacon bits. A little bit more than half a bag because, like I said, we don't measure. But instead of minced garlic, I'm just going to put some garlic powder in because, and the recipe calls for 4 cloves of garlic minced, so I'm just kind of shaking that over the whole thing. It also calls for some crushed red pepper. Be very generous with this. It doesn't take very much of that to get heat. And then it also calls for salt and pepper. So as you guys know, if you've been following me for a while, I typically am a little bit heavy-handed with the pepper. So we're doing maybe a tablespoon or so to start off. And then with the salt, I usually just do a pinch. And we're going to turn this on to medium heat. So you saw all that just went into one pot. And we're literally just going to turn it on to medium. There we go. We're going to stir it up and mix in all the seasoning. And if you're feeling like it's a little bit heavy on the meat or heavy on just add another can of beans or add a little bit more broth or whatever. Now, later on, after it's done cooking, you can actually take a potato masher and mash the beans up so it's a little bit more of a, like a brothy, saucy consistency and less beany, which I typically will do. So once it's done, you're going to turn it on to medium. We're going to let it boil, and then you reduce the heat, put the lid on it, and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. It is currently 7:09. I started filming this video at about 6:55, so it's taken us 15 minutes to get everything ready. But again, that's with me talking to you guys. If I wasn't talking to you guys and showing you everything, it would already have probably been boiling. So take that into consideration. So we're going to say that I started this at around 7, dumped everything in, and like I said, you're going to bring it to a boil over medium, high. However, if you're in a rush, put it on medium high or high heat, and then it'll obviously take less to get to that boiling. And then we are going to, like I said, we're going to reduce the heat. You're actually going to cover it up for about 15 minutes, let it simmer, and then you can take your potato masher and mash some of those beans up to give it a little bit less whole beans, if you get what I'm saying. While that is doing that, I'm going to just make a little salad. So I'm just going to put some lettuce. My husband made some hard-boiled eggs this morning, so we're going to put a hard-boiled egg on. Again, we're just trying to keep, because I did have some sweet treats today, and that's been the hardest part of the gestational diabetes, especially as we get closer to the holidays. We had the baby showers and the celebrations. It's getting a lot harder to resist the sweet treat temptations. So I let myself have like a half a cookie this morning, a half a cookie at the showers. We have some crumble cookies from leftover over the weekend, so we've been like breaking those up into small pieces. So because I had those cookies, I'm trying to like really amp up the protein in this meal. So that's why we added the prosciutto, the bacon. We're going to add the egg to the salad. And I'm just going to try and fill my plate with like half a salad and then the bowl of soup. So hopefully that keeps our sugar at a reasonable level. All right. And if you are somebody who is pregnant, you're approaching your glucose tolerance test, just a few tips from somebody who failed. Definitely do not, like, on the day of your first glucose tolerance test, you do not have to fast. So, like, eat a normal lunch. Eat what you would normally eat. I did not eat that day because that's just the type of person that I am. And eating 3 times a day at a regular interval is a struggle for me. So I had not ate that day. And then on my way to the appointment, I decided to have a snack. And then when you get there, obviously you have to drink the super sugary glucose drink. So my carby snack, I believe I had popcorn that day, plus the sugary drink, could have been what put me over the edge to fail. Now, I'm not saying that that's foolproof or that it's an exact science of that's why I failed the screener. But I do think there's a correlation because overall, looking at my numbers for I've been monitoring for exactly a month, a little over a month. So 4 weeks, a little bit more than 4 weeks. I started monitoring on October 17th, and today is November 19th. So for exactly a month, so about 5 weeks worth of, 4 to 5 weeks worth of readings, 4 times a day checking. My numbers have been, like, I've had some high ones, right? When you eat a cookie or when you eat something super sugary or super carb loaded, but they haven't been astronomical. I think part of the reason that I failed was because I had that carby snack right before I went into the tolerance test. So when you're going in, if you need to have a snack, try to have something that has protein, that has a carb mixed with a protein. So like I chose to have some popcorn that day as my snack. Something I could have done instead, maybe I could have had trail mix instead. Something that's like still kind of carby, but it has the nuts to counteract the carb. So I failed the first one. Go back for the 3-hour one. Now the 3-hour one, you do have to fast. Do not eat something super sugary the night before. So if you fail your 1-hour glucose tolerance, I would recommend just kind of looking up some snacks appropriate for gestational diabetes, high protein bedtime snacks, something like that. Because I made the poor mistake of eating just a normal snack, going about my normal everyday things. And like, I typically crave sweets at night. So I crave like cookies and milk, ice cream, something like that at night. Why that is, I don't know. There's a whole science on why your body craves different things. Don't make my mistake. If I were to go back and do it again, I would have either not had a snack before I went to bed, or I would have chose a different, maybe possibly a healthier snack. So I could have had like maybe an apple with peanut butter and some chocolate chips on the side, or something like that. Something that is not going to completely spike my sugar. Things that I've learned that do spike your sugar, obviously anything super sweet, refined sugar, cookies, Oreos, anything like that, chocolate, candy, those are the really big sugar spikes. Something else that actually spikes your sugar as well is like berries, and unfortunately like a lot of fruit has a lot of sugar as well. So again, pairing that with a protein has been a lesson that we've had to learn. But then also, milk is something that for me has been really triggering in terms of high sugar readings. So also not a great choice before bed, even though a lot of people say that, you know, drinking a glass of milk before they go to bed actually helps them sleep. Just know that it's going to spike your sugar. Some things that I have found that I have had at night that have not spiked my sugar are some air popped popcorn, or I did have some microwave popcorn a couple of times. And I've talked about here on the channel, like, I have had deli meat. I've had it warm and cold, and you know, it is what it is. I'm not eating it every day, and I don't eat it every meal. Like, if I do have deli meat, that's the only thing, you know, if I have it in a sandwich or a wrap or something, then it's like, okay, that's that. And then I eat something not deli meat at another meal. I've also had tuna a couple of times in the pregnancy. So, but some things that so microwave popcorn is another one, which microwave popcorn is bad for you regardless. It's because of the chemicals in the bag. They seep into the food. It's a whole thing. You can learn about it. But anyway, so, but I did have microwave popcorn a couple of times, and I just let myself have like a half a bag or like a small cup, and that was okay. Protein shakes I've discovered a love of protein shakes. They make them in all different flavors. Having like some chips and salsa with multigrain chips has been okay. Little cheese cubes with like meat sticks has been okay. Nuts are okay. And actually I've had an apple with peanut butter a couple of times, and I've actually had an apple with caramel a couple of times as well, but I had chopped nuts with it. So those have all been snacks that I have actually ate during my time of monitoring my gestational diabetes that have not resulted in a high fasting morning read, which, you know, some of it is trial and error. Some of it has just been, I'm just going to give in to my cravings. Some things that did spike the sugar, like I said, the cookies, the milk, ice cream, that was a big spike night. I think if you're eating mindfully, you know, trying not to have those sugary treats all the time, I think it's fine. Okay, so the soup, I did turn the heat down. It did come to a boil. It is 7:19. So after just 10 minutes on medium high, we are now moving on to the second part, which is just letting it simmer. And according to the recipe, you're supposed to let it simmer about 15 minutes. If you're in a rush, put your heat on a little bit higher. And as soon as it's really hot, like, you'll be good to go. All right, I'm going to just prep the salad, which, you know, I make a lot of salads here on the channel, but a salad is a great side dish for me. I love salad. Hubby, not so much, and hubby might not be home for dinner tonight, so we might just be eating this for ourselves, which is even more reason to have a salad. So we're going to always wash our lettuce first, and then we'll take the core, or as I like to call it, the butt out of our lettuce. And unfortunately, I've been trying to eat more romaine lettuce, but the romaine lettuce was kind of expensive this week at the store, so I just broke down and got ahead of iceberg lettuce. And to be honest, I haven't had iceberg lettuce in a really long time, and it does lack a little bit of nutritional value compared to romaine or the green goddess lettuce or whatever, but it is what it is. I knew I was going to be having like a heftier grocery bill this week because I needed to restock on my protein snacks. So I just said, you know what, we'll just get the cheap lettuce and we'll make a sacrifice. Lettuce is lettuce. It's still, you know, it's not bad for you to eat iceberg lettuce. It's mostly water, honestly. It just doesn't have as much of the good stuff as the romaine, but it is what it is. So while we are kind of affixing our salad here, we're getting ready for the holidays, And the holidays are obviously going to look a lot different for us as we prep for baby girl's arrival. And we have been so immensely showered with love and gifts and kind words, well wishes. And I thought I would use the rest of this video kind of while we wait for the soup to be done, just to talk about, like, you know, some things that I have learned in this process, just especially regarding baby showers, registries, and all of the things. So I was blessed to have 2 baby showers, one at work and one that my sister hosted. My husband also had a work shower, like I mentioned, that was today. And I spent most of the summer making a registry. I talked about this in my baby list welcome box unboxing video on how I got started, how I found baby list. And from a user-friendly registry creation standpoint, baby list, I think, is very user-friendly. However, there have been some things that have come up that I was not expecting that were not so user-friendly and led to some after baby shower kind of stress. So I want to just talk about that in the rest of this video. So this video is kind of a twofold. So if you're here for the cooking, skip ahead to the end. If you follow me for the rest of my content, then here you go. And maybe, who knows, maybe I'll split this up into a different video. But just because it's on my mind, I want to talk about it. So, like I said, I spent most of the summer creating a baby registry. Now, where to begin with building a baby registry? I watched a lot of videos, actually, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of just new moms reviewing products that they had put on their registry, talking about, you know, why they chose that product. I read a lot of reviews of products through Baby List on Walmart. Right after I found out I was pregnant, my mom and I went to Walmart, and I kind of just looked through the aisles of all the baby stuff and made some notes in my phone of things that I thought that I would want. Some things that right off the bat I immediately knew that I was going to want. Obviously, things like a baby monitor, a swing, a bouncer, tummy time mats. Like, those were the things that I kind of focused on first. And that would be my recommendation, is to pick something. And Baby List has categories, but Amazon does as well. Pick something that you care a lot about. So for me, tummy time is something that I know that we're going to be doing a lot of. And so I spent time watching and researching different moms talk about their tummy time mat and their tummy time toys to try and make a decision. And there are lots of different mats out there, lots of different opinions on the mats. So I'm not going to use this video to talk about like why I chose what I chose. This is more of just a FYI when building your registry type of a thing. So like I said, I watched lots of videos. I watched, I think our soup is almost done because I'm smelling the aromas. I read lots of reviews. Sorry, that was not a great angle. Apologize for that. I read lots of reviews, and I also, I just did my research, but I used the categories in Baby List. So like I started with playing because I knew tummy time. I added a few things. You know, it took me probably 2 to 3 weeks to build my registry. Now, mind you, I'm a first-time mom. We don't have any baby stuff in our house. I did get the welcome boxes, which is a good place to start. It gives you, like, it gives you a, like, starting point of, like, okay, at least now I have a couple of bottles, or I have a couple of pacifiers to try, or whatever. So I would recommend getting a couple of those, but also definitely just watch videos. And I intend to do a video very similar about things that I put on my registry that I thought I really wanted. Then we got it and I realized that I didn't really love it, or that I wish that I would have put something else on my registry instead. But just when thinking about building your registry, even when things like thinking about a breast pump, if your pumping is your journey, or bottles, like there are opinions on everything. So just do what you feel like you need or that you feel like will work best for your home. So one of the biggest critiques that I got was I have a lot of items on my registry, but my house is 2 stories. And so I knew that I was going to want things for the living room and things for the nursery for her to play. So for example, I put 3 tummy time mats on my registry. One that was like the most wanted, but it was also the most expensive. So for that, I picked a backup one. Like, okay, if somebody doesn't want to pay for this one, or if I decide I don't want to pay for this one, then this one is a more reasonable price, still very much like cute, on theme, whatever. Did that. And then I found like, a lower price one that could maybe be used for the living room or whatever. So I put all of that. So like I had one that was really high priced, and then I had one in mind for the nursery, one in mind for the living room. Same with pack and play / bassinet. We have a bassinet in the bedroom, but then we also wanted a pack and play that had a bassinet in the living room. So if we're sitting and watching movies, she can sleep in the bassinet. So things like this. So think about your lifestyle and what you feel like you and your partner will actually need to make, especially this first few weeks, easy and breezy. Because the last thing I want to do at 2 a.m. is be walking downstairs to go to the changing pad on the pack and play. Or, if I'm by myself and it's the middle of the day and she wants to play, I don't want to have to carry her downstairs to get her tummy time mat. I want to have all that very accessible. So think about all of that when you're building your registry. I think I've decided I'm just going to do more of this in a separate video. So for now, we're just going to get back to the soup. And like I said, watch out for a second video. I'm going to do a whole video on how to build your registry, what should put on your registry, what I put on my registry, and then also just how to prepare for a baby shower, because it was a great weekend, but it was exhausting. And also got our masher out to mash our beans. I want to talk about like duplicate items, because I think you hear about how you're going to get a lot of duplicates. I was unprepared for the amount of duplicates that I actually got. So I want to talk about that, but I think I'll just do it in a separate video. So we talked a little bit about it. We talked a little bit about the gestational diabetes, protein snacks, and how to monitor that. What I was going to say in response to that was, as of right now, I've been managing mine just with diet. I would say exercise, but I mean, during the day when I'm at work, I do stand and walk a lot. You can tell that because of my feet. Like, my feet are swollen. But if they were to see that especially the fasting ones, they're most concerned about your fasting ones, or at least that's what I've been told and educated towards. If those continue to be high, then I have been recommended a low dose of a medicine called metformin, and I would take it at night with my prenatals and all the other vitamins that we're already taking, and it just kind of helps stabilize the blood sugar overnight. But then since it's a 24-hour med and I'm just taking a very low dose of it, it actually would help regulate the blood sugar all the way throughout the rest of the day. So I'm going to show you guys what this soup looks like. I did just mash up the beans, hoping that I don't drop my phone in the soup. Okay, so it's a nice, like, thick and creamy soup. It smells delicious. And what we're going to do to top off this soup, there are a couple different options, but if you have rosemary leaves, that's what the recipe calls for. So we're going to put some of this on top. Now, another option, if you don't want to serve this with salad, you could serve this with some garlic bread, a little crostini, a baguette, but obviously we're trying to limit the carbs, so we're going to have a salad instead. My salad tonight is very basic. I'm just going to do my lettuce, my dressing, some cheese, more bacon, because I like to have bacon on pretty much all of my salads. I think I'm going to chop up some carrots, and then we're going to just put on, I think I did get some more of the little French fried onions. And those add just like a little crunch to my salad. So I'm going to put some of those on there. Some other toppings that I love on salads, which may seem weird. Goldfish crackers, sunflower seeds, croutons. I just like to have a little bit of crunch. So those are some other options. I have these little sesame stick things actually that I might try. Or the chow mein noodles. I called them crunchy noodles growing up. Those are also... Actually, maybe we'll do those. Maybe we'll do those. That sounds pretty good. So topping our salad, and like I said, I'm going to probably put a half of a hard-boiled egg on this as well. And then, but maybe not. We have the bacon, so maybe we'll just leave it at that. Then I don't have to worry about putting a half of a hard-boiled egg. Okay, so we're going to serve up this soup. We're going to put some rosemary on it, and this is what my plate looks like. So definitely half the plate will be salad, and then I'm going to have the bowl of soup with it. And we're going to ladle this out. And that is it. And it is right now, as I speak, 7:32. So this recipe, from the time that we turned on the pot, took us 7:39 would be 30 minutes. So we are at 23 minutes to make this recipe and to have dinner ready to serve for myself. So definitely a quick weeknight meal, which is where this recipe is located on my Pinterest board, is in the quick weeknight. So I'm just going to turn it off because it will it kind of does get stuck to the bottom sometimes. Give myself a big heaping scoop with the prosciutto and the bacon. Actually going to do maybe 2 scoops, or a scoop and a half. Okay, here's what it looks like in the bowl. You can see the steam. We're going to put some rosemary on it. Another option is thyme. You can also put dried thyme in it as well, whichever your preference. If you have both, try both. Parsley would be another alternative. Like I said, a lot of these ingredients you probably already have sitting around your house. So I'm going to just chop up some carrots, put some crunchy noodles on this salad, and then we're going to sit down to eat. Stay tuned for that registry video and some other pregnancy taboo videos. I am off for Thanksgiving all next week, so that's probably what I'm going to do next week, is to just kind of catch up on some filming for you guys and upload some videos. So that's it for this one. Thanks for sticking around. Let me know if you decide to try this one and your thoughts. Let me know if you add anything extra to it because I'm always looking for a little variation. But thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.